Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
Nanosecond will start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Okay. And with that, we would like to welcome our guest, Tyler Danburg. Hey, Tyler.
Hi, Erik. Hi, Evan. Hi, Pat.
And today, we are going to talk Ohio State and bigger picture, college football, and there what seems to now be a bigger problem than ever being, and we're going to lead off with it, is the planting the flag at midfield of your competition's stadium. So, I mean, personally, for me, I think it's ridiculous, disrespectful, a slap in the face, and those players should be, the players that were actually doing it, physically placing the flag, should be suspended for multiple games or even a season. But maybe that's too harsh. I don't know. But what do you think about that whole event transpiring at Ohio State, then 3 other schools that happened also?
Well, first off, great to be with you guys. Happy holidays.
Great to have you.
I'll tell you what, guys, that was unexpected, to be quite honest with you. Maybe Michigan to celebrate. That was a huge win, one of the biggest wins in the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, and it came for the Wolverines, obviously in an away building. It's very exciting. They had this was their season. They had everything to play for in this game, but nothing beyond it. As a 5-loss team, they were fired up, and they are rightful to be fired up. But to do that, to go to midfield while the team is still out on the field and to not expect any response, that probably should not have happened. And I think for around the different schools that did that between Arizona State, Florida, Michigan, etc., it definitely was shocking across all of college football to see how contagious it was. And good on the teams that lost to respond. Was it maybe too violent of a response? Absolutely. Ohio State's rationale is we're going to defend our state. We're going to defend our territory. You can't just come into our stadium despite winning and plant the flag and not expect us. Ryan Day said this is a prideful team, and they showed it. I mean, Jack Sawyer grabbing the flag and stealing it, regardless of where you stand or what you think of it. That is a prideful guy. That's a Columbus-born kid. He stuck up for his team. He stuck up for his state. When you think about college football has something. College football, college sports have something that not a lot of entities have. Is that you're representing a state, you're representing a community, and that has a platform. And Jack Sawyer was representing his state. He played his heart out. And yes, he does not have a win against Michigan in his career. That definitely stains his tenure. But that guy played his heart out, had an incredible interception, and probably became a cult hero for ripping the Michigan flag. So I don't really agree with the planting of the flag. The response and the outcome got very violent. Luckily, nobody got hurt. But it was definitely something that, even despite how much these teams have disdain for each other and that this is a rivalry, it got out of hand quickly.
And on a side note, it seemed like even in the NFL yesterday, there were, between college and NFL, there were a lot of bench clearing situations where there were punches thrown. Because I believe in the Washington game there was, and then in the Houston and Jacksonville game. Because I don't know if you saw the dirty hit on Trevor Lawrence, but there was punches thrown in that case too. And I just found out this morning that apparently if there's a dirty hit like that, due to a new NFL rule, the player that the hit was against gets to partially dictate what the suspension is. I don't know if any of you saw that.
No, it's new.
Trevor Lawrence has been beat up ever since he got into the league. I want to make a couple of quick statements here as far as what I know about this Ohio State thing. This was really disturbing to me, completely disturbing. The fact that Michigan had the balls, this was not, just one team reacting to another. That Michigan team had a lot of balls to take and try to plant that damn flag in the middle of Ohio State. The simple fact of it was, if you think back about this all started with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield used to run around and try to plant their damn flag in their opponents, and he did it in Ohio State once. And now it never went over that well back then, and it sure as hell didn't go over this time. That was wrong. I don't think the league itself handled it correctly by, we're going to fine you $100,000. What's that do to the players and the surrounding stuff that made this happen? You try to, when something like this happens, you got to think about this in a couple of ways. We don't want it to happen again. And we don't want this, whoever did this should be punished. Sure, the school's going to be out $100,000. What is that? Maybe one tuition for a year? Whoopee. The damn players ought to be fined. themselves. The damn players ought to be taken and released from the teams that they're on, or whatever happened. That was wrong. I don't care if it was Michigan. I don't care if it was Ohio State or any of the other ones that went on like this. It was just flat wrong. And in my opinion, I think they not only should have ejected them, but it was too late by then anyway. But there should be some suspension coming for the players. Anybody that was caught in the wrong should be suspended.
The problem with
go ahead, Erik.
But the problem with that is if they're 3 years into college football, then to avoid the suspension, they could just go to the NFL, and the NFL ain't gonna do that.
Let them go. They're probably headed there anyway.
Yeah, but the point is, if they go, they're not gonna pay for what they did.
Well, they're not going to pay for what they did anyway. The way it's set right now, they just
True.
The Big 12 is what fined them, and the Big 12 said we're going to fine you 100. No, it was the Big 12. No,
How?
sir, I checked that out. They said that it was, at least the one report I saw said the Big 12 is what fined them.
That doesn't make sense. Why would the Big 12?
I don't know. They may have been wrong on the news broadcast. Anyway,
The difference between the Baker and Oklahoma planting of the flag and the Michigan planting of the flag was that Ohio State and its players, coaches, support staff, they were off the field. And I think Baker and his teammates either stayed out there or they came back out and planted the flag, because there's that image of them planting the flag in what is almost an empty stadium.
yeah.
But for Michigan to do that while Carmen, Ohio was being sung just shows there's a little bit of a difference, because there's a great video that Brandon Marcellus of CBS Sports got. It was a video of Ryan Day singing Carmen, and you can tell he's brokenhearted. He's dejected. He is emotionless, just in utter shock. And in real time, you see cornerback Jermaine Matthews start to get word of there being a planting of the flag, and he turns as Day's got his arm around him, and Day quickly flips around, and then he just walks over and then watches basically this entire thing catapult into a wave of motion and fighting and tension. So there's so much going on, but Ohio State was still out on the field when Michigan came out, and you could hear the noise starting to pick up and kind of like a gasp around the crowd, and then the crowd goes crazy when Ohio State starts to get involved. We've really never seen anything like it. I think, and Pat, Evan, you probably were around or had been told about when Ohio State tore the Go Blue banner in 1972-73. I would have to assume that this is probably the only thing that could rival what we saw on Saturday.
I think you're right there. Wasn't that with wasn't Hayes the coach then?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I remember vaguely when that happened, and it didn't go over that well then either. How is the student body in that down there taking this? Are they ready to rumble?
Yeah, I it's funny. I was talking to my roommates about this probably about an hour and a half ago, and they're still upset. The campus on Saturday night was dead. It was depressed. It was somber, and everybody was just as emotionless as the team was. I mean, this is a fan base that is prideful. This is a student body that is prideful, and the consensus is that these students, especially the senior class, they've gone 4 years without seeing a win against Michigan, which many people view it just as, if not even more important than a national championship. That's just how much it means. Now, whether you think the national championship means more or less than a win over Michigan, for people to think that way just goes to show you how highly regarded this game is every year, regardless of whether Michigan is 11-0 or 6-5.
If there was a game that I look forward to every year, it's that one. I don't watch a whole lot of college ball anymore, but every time Ohio State plays Michigan, I'm in front of the television watching it. And a lot of people are that way. That's one of the biggest rivalries in the college leagues, and for them to just pull something like that, it's beyond me. I would like to kind of digress here, if Erik doesn't mind, and kind of switch gears. Is that all right, Erik? Is there something else I'd like to cover that is pretty close to this?
What? Well, I was about to ask something about Ryan Day, but okay. So, you're kind of around the team, obviously, more than any of us, the rest of us. Do you think Ryan Day's lost the team at all? I mean, just from an outsider's perspective, it kind of looked like they just gave up on him a little bit.
In looking at his actions and the way he handled the melee afterwards, you could kind of make that claim or make that belief just by seeing him just stand there, take it all in. That is and then people are looking at Sharon Moore and him, right in the middle of it, trying to break it up with his players. But there is a difference between your attitude after winning the game and your attitude after losing the game. And I think Ryan Day was in a state of shell shock. You look at his face, his reaction, and it is a stonewall.
This was something I wanted to bring up.
Him and his post-game presser, you could tell he was emotional. He was just absolutely dejected, and rightfully so. And for those saying that Ryan Day is on the hot seat or should be fired, first off, this team is going to probably still be in the playoff. Now, that is going to tell a lot. Can they get past this roadblock and make a run? Because you've heard it from so many different people. This is one of, if not the most talented team in the country. But when you have the most talented team in the country, it's coaching that can help you get through this. And Ryan Day's a heck of a coach. He only has 10 losses. He annihilates the teams that he should, and he's got a string of top 5 wins, but he has a 1-4 record against Michigan, and that certainly says something. So I think for a guy like him, what he does, what him and his team does in the playoff is absolutely magnified. But I don't think he's lost the team. I go back to that game against Georgia in the Peach Bowl, where basically they practiced as hard as they did all year, even though they knew that their season could have ended. They didn't have to get into the playoff after losing to Michigan by the way that they did, but they still snuck in. They had to have a lot of things go right, but they got in. And they were a field goal away from going to the national championship and probably beating TCU just as much as Georgia did. So I don't think that Ohio State I don't think Ryan Day has lost the team, especially with this senior leadership. The seniors, they've realized that they're not going to come away with gold pants. That's going to stick with them. But now there's a greater thing ahead, and it's a national championship. And they probably, they're not going to get a bye, but they could run the table. And there is a benefit to playing in single elimination games without a bye. We've seen that in Major League Baseball. Look at the Tigers. They almost took the series against our beloved Guardians. And the Dodgers ended up winning the World Series, but they went to 5 games of the Padres. You see that in countless other sports where the byes can eat you because you didn't play a full week you didn't play a full game the week before. So I think there could be a benefit, but it also comes down to who they play.
Okay, so if they don't get rid of Ryan Day, which doesn't look like they're going to, could you see them making moves to the coaching staff, specifically the offensive line? Because it seems like their offensive line coach is just not helping these guys develop as well as he could.
Yeah, the toughest part with Justin Fry is that he's had to deal with 5 different starting offensive line combinations. And that is something that rarely happens in college football, let alone to a top 10 team. When you lose your left tackle, who is playing All-American worthy football, lost your All-American center, who was probably going to win the Remington Award for the best center in college football, and you're also down to your backup left tackle, and you have to move your All-American left guard to left tackle. That is a tough spot to be in. So when you look at development, he's gotten these guys ready, and the offensive line, they had major struggles against Michigan. There's no doubt about it. That Wolverines front four is as good as they'll see all year. But the fact that they had a backup left guard at that position, a center who has started at 2 different positions this year playing that position, and Carson Hinsman struggled, but he had a really good game against Indiana and Penn State. And then you had a right guard who was starting against Michigan for the first time. That is a really tough thing to do. And development, Eric, could be a concern because of that. You got to get those guys ready. But Justin Fry was in a spot that almost nobody wants to be in. And the offensive line had looked pretty strong for what they've been through going into that game.
So it just seems like both in the trenches, Michigan is more physical. Could there be a strength and conditioning issue there with Ohio State? Because it seems like the last couple of years, they're in the trenches. They've been more physical than Ohio State. I see what you're saying with the five different combinations, and that could be an issue. But even the year before, when they had most of their offensive line healthy, they sort of struggled.
These are great questions to ask, Pat. I know you had something, so let it fly.
Well, looking at this game, looking at the Michigan game from a different perspective, I watched Ryan Day pretty much from the beginning of the game. He looked like he was a little. I don't want to be accusatory or anything, but it's something to think about. He just looked whipped. He looked wore out. He looked like he probably had a pretty good party the night before. And, that had to, in my eyes, that had to affect the play calling and his coaching ability. Now, on the other side of that coin, you had that quarterback, which looked kind of similar to that, I had to say. He looked like he was just about wore out. And that's probably why that big interception happened. And you got to wonder if his thought process was exactly correct in some of that. I'm always looking for something outside of what everybody looks at with this stuff. Then I'm going to take and start questioning this play calling in a few minutes. That's what I wanted to bring up here a little bit ago. I've got a clip we'll play here in a few minutes on the play calling and Chip Kelly himself. And it just looked, I don't know, it almost looked like Michigan had Ryan's, they have Ryan's number. And I don't know if he's ever going to win against them. What's the thought about this down there?
Well, I think it could be. We see that a lot in college football, where there are head coaches that are really good, really talented, great leaders, great ball coaches, but there's that one team that gives them spells, and that could be their legacy. And that could certainly be the case with Ryan Day. I think maybe it's a mental thing on Ryan Day's side, just because, you know, maybe there's something about him being in his own head, you know, that maybe he was trying to scheme something that lost them the game. And that's the toughest part about play calling. It seemed like they kept wanting to run the ball and didn't want to go to the air and go to that star receiving core. Like with 49 seconds left in the game, when they check it down multiple times to the running back Henderson and Howard couldn't complete a pass to him. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith in single coverage and you don't air it out against a depleted Michigan secondary. That certainly raises some concerns.
Huh.
I think Chip Kelly is a heck of a play caller. He's an offensive guru. You go to the fourth and one. I'm going to defend Chip Kelly here. When it was 4th and 1 and they had that old end around in the wing formation to Quinshon Judkins for 15 yards, that was stroke of genius. But in the end, when you're held to 10 yards in the fourth quarter,
this is gonna expand on this a little bit. Let me play this clip quick. It's only a couple minutes long. Was actually I've been watching a lot of Facebook reels on this stuff, and this guy explains the run and the passing thing on the Chip Kelly was calling. So let's watch this quick.
This man right here just cost Ohio State a national championship. It's kind of funny because all offseason, everyone was talking about how Chip Kelly was going to revive Ohio State's offense. They were going to be so good this year, just a dominant force. And in reality, they sucked. And today's game was a perfect example. They just put up 10 points at home as 21-point favorites when Michigan's best player, a cornerback Will Johnson, didn't even play. And I know that some Ohio State fans thought they were getting some elite play caller with Chip Kelly, but he actually sucks. The amount of times that Ohio State ran directly at Michigan's defense right up the middle is genuinely insane. In today's game, Ohio State ran 24 plays on 1st and 10, and out of those 24 plays, they ran the ball on 14 of them. So 14 out of 24 plays, they ran the ball. Out of those 14 plays, they gained 0 or negative yards on 5 of them. They gained less than 3 yards on 10 of them, and they only gained more than 5 yards on 2 of those 14 run plays. And overall, they ran the ball 26 times, and out of those 26 rushes, they only gained more than 5 yards 3 times. But what's even more glaring is today they had 2 drives, 3rd and long, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, and with all their elite wide receivers, you think, oh, they'd pass the ball, try to pick up the first down. They ran the ball twice on these 3rd and long plays, and they gained 1 yard. And you might be thinking that Ohio State just had a bad game offensively, they've been good all year, but that's not really true. I mean, as you can see here, this season, Ohio State averaged fewer than 30 points per game in the Big Ten, which is their lowest output since 2011. And literally just 2 years ago, they were averaging 45 points per game. So yeah, the man that was supposed to be the answer for Ohio State football might have just cost them a national championship.
All right, what do you think?
He's got a good point. Hey, he's absolutely right. Chip Kelly, he likes to run the ball. And when you have 2 running backs that have over 7,000 combined yards and 80 touchdowns, you're going to want to use them in such situations. But the 3rd down runs were certainly a glaring question as to why they did that, especially when you look at that Ryan Day offense 2 years ago. They really liked to air it out. And when you have CJ Stroud, of course you're going to air it out. But should they have gone to the pass more? Absolutely. Hindsight is 2020. They're going to be facing good run defenses, probably better run defenses in the college football playoff. So that's going to be a great opportunity for them to avenge their miscue in week 14.
Yeah, it just seemed to, when I saw that, I got thinking about that whole game, and I thought that guy had some pretty valid points. You know, as far as I would have been afraid, there was a couple of points I would have been afraid to air it out, but there was a couple that that quarterback probably wishes he had back. That thing that turned into the interception and ended up 2 yards away from the end zone. That's what was that, the third quarter? That play should have never happened.
And I think too, guys, you know, a big storyline is what Ohio State did wrong. First off, the defense was fantastic. Mm-hmm. They were dealt some pretty tough hands, like the Will Howard interception that had Michigan start in the red zone. I think an underappreciated part of this game, and one of the main reasons as to why Michigan won, was special teams, because they threw for just 62 passing yards, and they ran for 170 plus rushing yards, but they ran the ball a lot, and they didn't average too many yards per carry, right around 4. Special teams helped win them that game. The 54-yard field goal, the go-ahead field goal, the 68-yard punt, the kickoff that had Travion Henderson in a tough spot. Should I knock it down, pick it up, risk a fumble, or just fall on the football? And all of a sudden, Ohio State's inside its own 15. Michigan got a lot of its success on special teams, and that helped them win the game in a way that you don't normally see it play a factor.
Well, and it doesn't help that Jaden Fielding missed, 2 or 3 field goals?
Yeah, he missed 2.
Yeah, those always bite you in the rear end.
It seems like he struggles in the high-pressure situations. Like, I think they need to replace him, because if he can't kick in a high-pressure situation, then, you know, that's not good, because he missed a kick against Georgia a couple years ago, and then he missed multiple kicks this game.
Well, that one was Noah Ruggles.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
Okay. But still, in this game, Fielding 2 key kicks he missed, which didn't help. That adds to your special teams point, too. And like you said, their punter had a 68-yarder. Our punter had one that went, 30 yards and out of bounds?
Yeah. Evan, what were your thoughts on the game?
I'll echo what you guys have been saying all this whole game. I kept hearing the commentators for the Fox feed saying, why don't they go to the air? This is what they do well. That front is tough to run on, and that proved to be the case. And I more and more as I was watching that game, I said, yeah, why can't they air it out? Will Howard has a very good arm, and you've been singing the praises of those rookies, so I think that was a missed opportunity. Chip Kelly, I think, is probably a little too doctrinaire in that he wants to just run the ball, against everybody, and that I don't think that was really a good game plan. That was one of the things about Bill Belichick that was always his strength, was he would take every single opponent he was going to face the next week and say, okay, what do they do well? They stop the run. Okay, well, we're going to pass on them because they can't stop the pass for everyone. And that, to me, this game would have called for that kind of thinking. Maybe it wouldn't have worked, but at least it should have been tried.
And maybe it was a wake-up call too, that they have to go to something similar to like that, or maybe that they can't run the ball on just everybody. Usually when Ohio State's at its best, it's when it's balanced or a little bit more lenient on the offensive attack. I obviously, there's a lot Ohio State could have done better. They had a tough game, and they struggled in a spot where you can't struggle in. That you struggled in a game that they can struggle, that you can't struggle in. I hark back to that defense. One of the keys was OSU's defense had to get off the field, and that defense constantly got Michigan off the field. Now, granted, Davis Warren doesn't pose a threat as a passing quarterback, and Michigan's run game is their identity. But despite them being at the bottom of the Big Ten in offense and at the bottom of the country in passing offense, they just couldn't get anything offensively on OSU's D. And for as much as Chip Kelly is getting talked about, Jim Knowles should be getting praised to the same degree. Because what he's done to transform this team into the bottom of the country in total defense when he got here before 2022, and fast forward 3 seasons later, they're the number one total defense in college football. Despite the loss, I still think it says a lot, and they've been playing really good since that Oregon game when they allowed over 450 total yards.
Yeah, I had heard a stat going into the bye after the Oregon game, they had 8 sacks. After the bye, they have 22. So there is something during that bye that Jim Knowles did to that defense to either simplify it or to open up for the linebackers and linemen to get to the quarterback. Because, again, 8 sacks, then 22 sacks after. There's a huge discrepancy in that, which is good, obviously, for Ohio State, but clearly they changed something.
It also kind of bothers me that Ohio State hasn't. If you look at, that video showed, if you looked at the total output of points over or through the years, the last 3 or 4 years, it keeps decreasing. If this would have been an Urban Meyer year, or even Trussell, it would have been a whole different story, and we wouldn't be talking about this like this right now. I'm not sure if it's just the lack of being able to coming down into the recruitment of players, or what. I don't know that Day is as good of a recruiter as Myers was. Myers had always had a way of if he wanted a player, that player was there. And it just doesn't seem like it's happening that way anymore. And I hate to say it, but I hate to see this team decline. But
I get what you're saying, Pat. I think there are some elements of Meyer that might have made him, so effective as a recruiter. Now, granted, Ohio State has NIL, and their NIL collectives do an incredible job of, being very selfless and raising a lot of money to pour into this football program and even into its other sports as well. Now, yes, it was a reported amount of $20 million that was put forth to help build this roster. But if you think it's just money alone that brought these guys here, I would try and open your thoughts a little bit more, because I think, yeah, money is important and it's big, but money isn't the sole reason as to why top transfers come in and top recruits coming from high school. the fact that Ohio State was able to get the number one transfer in all of college football and to get the number one available running back in the transfer portal, get the number one recruit in the class, I think says a lot to Ryan Day and his staff's ability. Obviously, you have the prestige and the pedigree of Ohio State. You are in one of the top and most successful athletic departments with a brand recognition that's almost unparalleled in the country. But despite all these assets and resources, you still have to buy into the coaching staff. And I think they've done a really good job of that. Now, it's finishing what these guys came here for. They did not get the gold pants. They didn't beat Michigan, but they could have a chance to win a national championship. It is a tough path. Maybe people have counted them out. Who knows? It depends on how they look at that. But now it's crunch time, and now you're really feeling the pressure of the weight of this team because it was stacked. It was built, and now you got to get to that mountaintop. So it'll be very intriguing to see how championship weekend plays out and where Ohio State stands. Do they go on the road for a college football playoff game? Do they host a college football playoff game in late December in the Horseshoe? Do they make the college football playoff? And then what do you do? Where do you go from there? How do you address the coaching staff and the players? And how many guys transfer out or decommit? These are all these questions that will be closer to being figured out probably after championship weekend. But I'm very confident that Ohio State makes the college football playoff when you have two top 5 wins. You have a win against then number 3 on the road in a top 3 environment in college football, top 5 at the very least. It holds weight, and we're going to see how this plays out.
And by the way, I see your Browns hoodie there. 14-7 Browns.
What?
14-7
Wait a minute, that's not supposed to happen. They're not favored.
Oh, this is a weekend for it. 14-7 Browns. So far, that's I didn't see what quarter it's in. The wife
Where
has got
did
it
you
on.
get that? Because I see 7-7.
Well, they picked up a fumble and ran it in.
Oh, okay.
And
Sweet.
It's 14-7 now.
Sweet. Okay. With there should be about the end of the first quarter. Hold on.
Yeah, I think it is because it's commercials.
Okay.
Wait, mate. They must have taken that back. Did they take that back, Laura?
Yeah, I'm still seeing 7-7.
I think they called it a down by contact. From what I'm seeing, it's down by contact.
It was,
so
Cleveland didn't have the ball. They've got it now.
yeah, I don't think they scored.
Huh.
But he was down by contact. We got the ball, but our guy apparently was labeled down before he got to the end zone. I don't know. Google is all over the place.
That's too bad. I thought we were winning. Damn.
I think there was an overrule too. I think they wiped out the fumble. Anyway, as we're doing live play-by-play.
They just got a first down.
Cool.
But anyway, getting back to our original subject, where do you see changes being made in the offseason down there?
I think it's too early to tell. Last year, there was the two biggest staff changes were Tony Alford taking the running back coach job at Michigan. That was certainly a stunner. And then them firing Parker Fleming, who was their special teams coordinator, and They've gone no special teams coordinator this year. I still think it's too early to tell, just given that the season isn't over and the status of the season is unknown. Once we get a little bit closer to finding out where this program and team is going to be, then assumptions will start to be made and moves will start to be made. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe there are no changes to the staff. I wonder how many guys go to the transfer portal, because actually linebacker Gabe Powers just announced that he was in the transfer portal as of right now. He plans to enter the transfer portal according to On3. So I wonder what this Michigan game does to the state of the program, and if they make a run here in the CFP. I hate to be a broken record, but that Michigan game doesn't necessarily go in the rearview mirror because you count 364 days to it, but it doesn't have that much of a stench if you hold up the trophy by the end of the season.
This is true too. A lot of people treat that Michigan game as a playoff game, and it's really not. It's just another season game. But it's the last one of the season, and even I've made that mistake before. And I'd like to see them, now that they're in the playoffs, I'd like to see them run the table like they're supposed to. They were supposed to run the table for the whole season, and they've had 2 losses now, but that is what it is. I also am curious. I'm kind of curious as to what the rankings what's going to happen in the rankings once everything's settled for this week and where they end up at. Have you seen anything on that yet?
So right now, guys, one of the more common first round playoff matchups is Tennessee versus Ohio State. Now, there are some outlets and entities projecting for that game to be in Knoxville, and some people projecting that game to be in Columbus. And there are people that have compared the resumes. A quick shout out to the great Spencer Holbrook, who's with Letterman Row and On3. He weighed the comparison between Tennessee and Ohio State, and he makes a good claim as to why, if those teams were to play each other, Ohio State gets the home playoff. It'll be very interesting. Maybe they don't play Tennessee at all. Maybe they play Georgia. That would be that would be interesting. That's what a lot of people wanted last year when they both missed out on the playoff, for that to be the New Year's Six Bowl matchup, for it to be a rematch of the 2022 Peach Bowl. But for those two teams to play each other when it would mean something, that would be pretty incredible. But I would love to see a Tennessee-Ohio State matchup, because the Volunteers have a very methodical way of trying to win games. And I think a lot of it is very similar to Michigan. They like to run the football, and this could be a great chance for Ohio State to shut down the run game and for them to air it out and test the secondary. It's going to be a very intriguing development to see who they play, when they play, what will the status and significance of the game be for the CFP or a New Year's Six.
Let's see a Tennessee game in the shoe in a snowstorm. Yeah, that'll work. That works for me. I'd take a snowstorm for that.
I don't think
let's do it somewhere up around Geneva on the Lake, or somewhere in Ashtabula, maybe.
Or just have it a mutual site and move it to Buffalo.
Oh, that would work. That would work. That Geneva on the Lake got 57 inches of snow.
Oh, jeez.
And it came as east, or it came west as far as Lake County, which my sister lives in Paynesville, and she sent me pictures, and you couldn't see your car.
Yeah, they got
The
stoked.
car was buried, and yeah, well, let's do that. Let's have it up. Let's have a good old fashioned snow game. That works for me.
That would be awesome. Or moving it up there, other than there's no place with capacity that would hold that unless you go up to Buffalo.
Cleveland Brown Stadium. They're not doing anything. Let's have it in there. That's a good sized stadium for that. A little small.
Hey, there might be a football stadium in Erie. That would work, because that's further east. Because Cleveland gets hit hard, but not compared to Erie and Buffalo.
Yeah, let's go to Buffalo for it. I'd watch that. That'd be entertaining. What do you think, Ev? You ready to go up there?
Sure.
You're gonna go.
We talked about being in Buffalo before.
You're gonna go sit in the stadium and watch Ohio State in the Snow Bowl.
I better make sure I have my long johns on and all my other, wool socks and the like. But other than that, sure, why not?
Hey, would you be one of the volunteers to dig the stadium out?
Let's see. How much do they pay? What, $50 a day and something else they feed you? I think that's.
Yeah.
They feed you and everything. Yeah. But you got to be there 6 hours before the game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not I saw something really cool. There was a thing on Facebook that I watched earlier today that said why they're not allowed to use snow blowers on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And this come from about a game in 71 or 73. It was Miami and Buffalo, or Miami. I think it was Miami and Buffalo, and the score was 0-0 up until the last quarter, and Buffalo had to kick a field goal. Well, they asked this. There was about a foot of snow on the field. They asked this. They got this guy in a snowblower to come out and blow a spot on the field off so that the kicker could get his footing, and then they ended up winning the game. Well, the Miami coach threw a fit over it, and he said, "I'm going to make it. We're going to put rules in place that there will be no snowblowers allowed on the field at any time during a game." And it's been that way since 70. I think it was 71. Little interesting fact there.
It's a good nugget.
That some of the stuff you happen across when you're doing research for a show. It's all in fun. So, what do you got planned for Christmas down there? Anything yet?
Yeah, just gonna spend time with the family. I graduate from Ohio State on December 15th. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So after that, I appreciate that, guys. So yeah, after that, I'm gonna come home to the Cleveland area and just enjoy the time with the family. What about you guys?
Yeah, we're gonna take, and my kids will we're gonna go over to my daughter's for dinner. Christmas Eve, that'll probably be about it with getting the family together, and we'll just come back here for my wife and I and the grandkids, and that'll come back here to open gifts Friday night or Wednesday night, Tuesday night.
Yeah, Christmas Day's a Wednesday.
Christmas is Wednesday, so it'll be Tuesday night. We'll come back here. I may end up at church or something. You never know.
It'll be weird having NFL games on a Wednesday.
It may turn out better than they think.
Well, yeah. the quality of game might be good, but quality of broadcast is in question because it's Netflix doing the games, and seeing how well Netflix did with the Tyson and Paul fight.
Yeah. Did you happen to see that fight, Tyler?
Yeah, we watched it, and it was something that didn't necessarily exceed our expectations. Now, you came into it thinking, well, can you have expectations to begin with? I mean, good for Mike Tyson. He's said. I mean, you think about everything that he's gone through in his life, and from being at the highs of highs to the lowest of lows, and he's had all the money in the world, none of the money in the world, and for him to make over $20 million from this fight, it was still pretty cool to think that for our generation, our parents were watching Mike Tyson fight, and now he's fighting when we're young adults and adults. It's pretty crazy to think about, and kind of probably not to the same degree as George Foreman, because George Foreman won some fights and fought a good amount at that 50+ age, but it was interesting nonetheless to see how that was all handled.
Yeah, I was able to get it through Netflix too, but they had some real issues with that. There was supposed to be 73 million people watching that worldwide, and they had connection issues at the wazoo. I didn't really get to see it until the 4th round.
Every live event that they've done, they've had issues.
With that being said, by the 4th round, Tyson was done. He was done after the 2nd round, and he was just playing rope-a-dope for the whole 2 minutes he was in there. Kind of disappointing because I haven't been a huge fan of boxing, but I've watched it. I watched Cassius Clay beat the heck out of Foreman 2 or 3 different times, and I watched Tyson come up through the ranks and everything. And Tyson was a fast fighter. He was fast and he was powerful. And what I saw on that screen, my wife says, "Why do you even want to watch this?" I said, "Because it's history. This is going to be a historic fight no matter what." And it was all right, but it was rope-a-dope for 6 rounds.
I mean, it's like the WWE. It's scripted. And you can't tell me, even at 58, that Tyson couldn't have easily beat Jake Paul.
He couldn't have.
Being that it's Tyson.
He couldn't have. He was. That was not the fighter I saw. Tyson, when you'd watch him, they'd do those pre-fight, the camera in the room things, and he pounced like a tiger. He was always, he'd walk like it was the eye, man. He had the eye.
I mean, he bit a dude's ear off.
And
what else?
Well, during that fight, he didn't have it anymore. He was just doing that to get out of that fight. And what they showed him before that fight, they showed him, and he didn't have the eye. These fighters, when they got it, man, you can tell they got it, because they're the king of the mountain. And he was, but when he bit Hollifield's ear off, or tried to, he didn't have the eye then. He was just doing it to anything in a fight, trying to get out of it. Well, and he hasn't had it since. I'm still waiting for one of these fighters to actually make it big time. I'd love to see that. Is it going to happen? I don't know if it's going to be in my lifetime anymore. But anyway, we just hit the hour mark. You guys want to continue, or
Yeah.
what do you want to do?
I think we should wrap.
All right.
We're close.
All right, we can wrap. Well, what wrap are we going to do?
Okay. We're not going to go there.
I'm going to play our favorite song on the way out,
Okay.
just because it's this week.
I guess we want to thank Tyler for joining us.
Yeah, Tyler, it's been a blast, man. Glad you could come
That was
in.
fun.
Always a pleasure. Happy holidays, guys. Go Browns.
Yep, you
Yep.
too.
Yep.
See
And
you here.
is that
And
it?
Cavs.
And, Kev-
Yes.
Yes, especially.
and Guardians, and eventually
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah.
another 4 months, 5
Yeah.
months. Anyway,
I
thanks
I
everybody
was
for
gonna
joining us.
say, I can't wait to find out where we can watch them. Because, Bally's isn't carrying them.
All right, we're gonna get the puck out of here, or what?
I'm just going to say thank you all for listening and have a good night.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Pittsburgh!